So we have the program control flow where there are two different types, the if function and then the looping. So for if, we have if, elif and else, and then the ternary expression where you have the if as a single line code, just one line. So the first part is what to do if the condition is true, and then the condition itself, and then else followed by what to do if the condition is not true. And the else part is, of course, is optional. Now let's look at loops, and we have two different kinds of loops. Okay, there is a for loop and then there is a while loop. And typically what loop will do is loop will take an iterable object. Iterable object is where you have several elements in the object. Okay? And then you just go through each and every one of those elements and do something with it. So that is what loop is. Okay? So for loops, loops are, oh, there is a typo there. Loops are for iterating over an iterator. An iterator can be a collection of items, okay, and they are usually, well, actually there are three things: a list, a tuple, or a dictionary, and we have not discussed what those are. We will discuss that in the next chapter. So you will go through those elements, or you have a range of numbers and you go through those numbers in the range, one after the next, and then do execute a code, a chunk of code. Execute the chunk of code for each value in the iterator. So that's the main idea. Okay. So here is the syntax. So here is example 1. So we have a list that contains a list of numbers, okay, and then there are some elements which are not numbers. Okay. Now we want to go over those elements and then total those numbers, some of them. Okay. We cannot just simply say sum of the list because there are some elements which are not numbers. So if you simply use sum, it's going to give you an error. So we have to iterate over each of those elements, okay, and then add them up if the element is a legitimate number. If it is not a legitimate number, then we want to skip that. Okay. So here is a list of elements, okay, and you see that there are 5 elements. One of that is not a legitimate number, okay, and we want to total them up. So we start with a container, a variable, okay, because without a variable we cannot keep adding stuff to it. Okay. So we start with an initial value of 0. So initially we start out with 0, and then this is the syntax for the for loop. Like in the if function, we have if, a condition, and a colon, and then the block of code to be executed if the if function is true. Similarly here, for a for function, so you have for, and then this is a user-defined variable name. So in yes. Okay. So what this will do is, what for will do is, it will take each of these elements one at a time and put it into this variable name. The value there, value that I have in this statement is a user-given name. It can be anything. It can be v1 or my variable or whatever. It has to be a valid, legitimate variable name. We already know what the rules are for valid variable name, right? So you use a valid variable name, okay, and then the keyword in, okay, value in or v in that list, yes. And then I have a colon, So which means that it's going to be indented. Okay, remember indenting. So everything that is indented after that forms the block of code that needs to be executed. Once the indenting is over, then you go back to the original starting position, then that would be a new line of code, which is not part of the for loop. So the for loop will extend only to those lines which are indented. Okay? So now since we want to add, and if you add a non-numeric number, it's going to throw an error, so we have to first check. So I'm checking with the type function. So the type of anything will give you back what is the type of that particular variable name. So I'm checking whether type, and now in the if function, to test whether it is something equal to something or not, we use two equal signs. So if you have just a single equal sign, so that means it is an assignment statement. If you say a equal to 5, then the number 5 will be put into that variable a, right? So, and then, okay, if you want to just compare, is a equal to 5 or not, then you can't put equal sign there. You have to put two equal signs. So the two equal signs will be interpreted as a comparison. Okay, is the left side the same as the right side? Okay, so is type of value is int. Int is again a keyword, so that means it is an integer value. Okay, or it could be a non-integer value too. So or is type of value, okay, again, two equal signs. It's a comparison. Okay, is float. In either one of those two cases, then I'm going to add that value to total. So whatever the old value of total was, then you're going to just add to that this new value. So otherwise, I don't want to do anything, so there is no else, there is no elif or anything like that. That's it. So then, so here again, you see that the if function ends after the condition, we end with a colon. So that means you indent again. So this indented line is only if the if is true. Okay. So now I'm going to indent back twice. So that means I'm getting out of the if function and I'm getting out of the for function as well. Okay. And then I'm printing total. So it's going to go over each one. Okay. So 1 is integer, so it gets added. 2.2 is float, gets added. 4 is integer, gets added. None is neither integer nor float, so you skip that. And then 5 gets added. Okay. So that's our typical for loop. Okay. So 12.2 is the answer. So for, and then you give a variable name, that's your variable name. It can be anything, as long as it is a valid variable name. And then you say in is a keyword, so for variable in, then you give the iterable, which is a list of elements. Say the list or tuple or dictionary. Okay. So here is another example. So find the sum of all numbers that are multiples of 5 between 0 and a given number. Okay. So now here I'm going to introduce a new function called range. Okay. So range and then a number is a function in Python that set up a range of numbers starting from 0 to n minus 1. So that means you will have n values. So if you say range 100, then you're going to get 100 values starting from 0. So when you start from 0, you end with 99, you get 100 numbers. Okay? All right. So again, we start with initializing a variable, sum equal to 0. and then I say for I in, so this is a different kind of iterable. So there, the iterable was a specific list of items. Okay. Here, it is a range of numbers that we have created ourselves, range of numbers going from 0 to 99. So now we want to sum only those numbers that are multiples of 5. So that means we have to use the modulus operator with a 5, and if the modulus of I with 5 is 0, that means it is divisible by 5, or it is a multiple of 5. Okay. So I percentage 5 is going to give you the remainder of that division, right? So if 12 divided by 5, then that percentage sign will give you 2, because 5 divided by 5 will give you a remainder of 2. 5 times 2, 10, the remaining is 2. That's what you're going to get. And so if that remainder is 0, that's divisible by 5 or multiple of 5, so then we sum it.